Yeah.
Have that conversation.
Thank you, she heard it. Much nicer, you have a lovely smile, so we should see it. It's okay, we'll have other times to meet, don't you worry, I'm sure.
Are you there?
And we understand having to work late, believe me.
I don't know.
We
Board.
get it, we get it.
Reviews license. Attorney, deputy general or something. So.
Oh, she has a deadline. I got it.
Saturday I went to a. It was like
Everyone.
against Adam. That's just.
Everyone online, I just want to announce that we're going to start in a couple minutes. We'll chat now. I just want you to hear it. Okay.
Whatever.
And we saw
Okay.
a council member there. We talked
I'm-
about it. So like.
You know, I'm at a meeting.
I mean, he's making his own moves now, right? Because I think he realizes that like.
But you're welcome. I thank you for coming
So,
and,
I mean, that we got.
no,
into
at 9
this in the
o'clock
first
we
place
have
is
this
a disaster, but I think
family Zoom.
with all the pressure and the conversation
Royal, so maybe-
we had, and obviously like,
Okay.
it's not even going to like the
So you're welcome.
Democratic nominee anymore,
Okay,
so I think
fine.
it has worked out.
Love your nails. Oh, my goodness. I mean, thank you.
Right.
Hi.
Oh my goodness, that's totally different.
It's
With the
three
my hand was like this. Okay.
Like, we put a dark
I know that there is a.
On March 27th.
So it's the nature of the
12 years.
And we're fine. Don't really want it.
I'm Emma. Nice to meet you.
I'm Howard. Nice to meet you.
Right. Hair, but March 27th.
It's a conversation men would never have.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm gonna swim, you never know.
We don't care.
I think you never know.
Like under our.
Hi, guys.
Just try.
They were talking about that, like that.
Hi, guys.
Make the whole thing.
It's 6:33. I usually like to wait until 6:35, but I don't see a big group of attendees piling on, and we can just get right to it. Welcome, everybody who is here in the room and on Zoom. Very few people on Zoom. You are at the, this is the monthly meeting of the Human Services Committee of Community Board 2. We are going to do introductions, and first I'll tell you what the agenda is. We have two items tonight. One is a conversation about aging in place, resources for area seniors, and we're going to be meeting, we are meeting with Visiting Neighbors, which is a small not-for-profit that has offices right down the hall here. And the second agenda item is going to be a discussion of the National Parks decision to alter the language that describes the civil rights movement at the Stonewall National Monument. We don't have quorum tonight, so the first conversation doesn't call for a resolution, the second one does. So what we will do is we'll go into business session, we'll have a conversation about what we would do, and then we will bring that to executive committee or to the full board because we don't have the quorum to pass a resolution tonight. So we'll first do introductions and then I'll toss it off to Ritu. I'm Susanna Aaron. I'm the chair of this committee and vice chair of the Parks Committee.
Janet Liff, board member.
Arturo Fernandez, board member.
Emma Smith, I'm also a board member.
And Keen Berger, board member.
And Cynthia, will you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'm Cynthia Maurer, Executive Director of Visiting Neighbors.
Howie Square, I'm the volunteer coordinator of visiting.
Tell me your name again.
Howie and
Oh, Howie, like as in
Square,
Howie.
just like the shape.
Okay, great. So I'm going to toss it. This was, thank you guys for coming, and thank you, Ritu, for proposing this topic. This is really Ritu's bailiwick, so I'm going to toss it to her to have that conversation, and I'll take the meeting back and go to the next.
Yeah, she could introduce herself too.
And she will introduce herself.
And hi, I'm Ritu Chatri, and I am, what am I, Susanna? Vice Chair?
Yes, you are.
Vice Chair of Human Services Committee, of the Human Services Committee. Thank you, Cynthia and Howie, for coming to our meeting. This is what I hope will be the very first of conversations that we are starting to have in this committee to talk about what are the needs for seniors in our area and what resources can we help to shine a spotlight on that will help them and serve them. There have been some discussions about resources that we know really well, like Greenwich House, for example, but there are a host of other organizations that really help seniors once they start to become somewhat incapacitated. And, you know, we all have the desire to age well, to age healthy, and to age at home. But we don't always make plans to do so. And so what we've noticed in my building, which is a rather large building, is that we have, you know, I would say roughly between 20 and 30 seniors, many of whom are single, are living alone because their partner passed or they remain single throughout their life. They may or may not have had children, or they may or may not be close to their children. And so neither do they have an immediate caregiver, nor do they have an immediate advocate that can intercede on their behalf with respect to all the things they may need financially, physically, nutritionally, hygiene, and health, most importantly. So this is what I hope will be one of the first conversations. Cynthia's group came to us highly recommended from Deborah Glick's office, which is why I reached out initially. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to Cynthia to talk a little bit about what needs are there for the people that you serve, and then to talk a little bit about what your group does. So thank you.
Okay. Everything that you've been finding in your building actually is true throughout the city. Visiting Neighbors has been around for 53, this is going on our 53rd year of servicing seniors in the community. We were started in 1972. And we were a small group, but we are also a mighty group. We have been through a lot and we're survivors, just like our seniors are survivors. But we see some very common threads and trends. One is we are definitely getting older. 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago, the average age of client coming to our program was 79. It's now 89. The average age of our client is 90. A third of our clients are over the age of 90. 90% live alone. 98% can't afford services outside of getting their basic needs met, like going to even the bank or going to do shopping for themselves. We are getting older and we are living longer. There is definitely a clear trend and statistics to back this. Visiting Neighbors started out as a simple concept where a neighbor would help an older neighbor. And it was a small program of friendly visiting, which is how we started, where a couple of volunteers, actually it was 8 who are originally founding fathers, noticed that seniors who would come home from a hospital stay, and it could be something minor, like they banged into the wall because they missed, we've all done it when we're tired or sad or frustrated. And they there was a revolving door with the hospital. They were constantly going in and out of emergency rooms and not for serious things. So this group of 8 had decided to do a little research and figure out what is going on here. And they, amongst themselves, decided to match themselves up with each of one of these seniors that they selected. And a friendly visiting program was formed. And then they noticed the seniors not going to the hospital as often, or certainly not going in for things that were minor, or trying to catch things before they became a more significant problem. Well, through the years, we've grown. We not only have friendly visiting, that's actually one of our side programs, actually, but the concept is the same. We matchmake. We match people together based on interests and hobbies, and have people who just want the companionship. Most of our seniors are very lonely and they've lost their family and friends. There's no secret or how this came about. We do hear many times, how can anyone be lonely in a city like New York? It's very easy, especially when you're not strap hanging, when you're not out and about, and when you don't know who to trust. because there's a lot of scams and they're getting worse and worse. And we're seeing them and we're passing this information on to our seniors to watch out for these scams. Because they target especially lonely people and vulnerable people, and anyone can get caught up in it. So friendly visiting is still a core program, and we still do it, and we have hundreds of matches out there that are just enjoying themselves. And after a while, they forget that they're volunteers, and they're just getting together. Our eldest, which Howie did an amazing match, a woman who walked into our door at 92 years old and said, what's the oldest age you can volunteer? And we don't have a limit. So she said, I'd like to volunteer. I'm able-bodied, I'm willing to do it, and I'm lonely myself. And I think it would be a nice thing to do. So how we met, we interview all of our seniors. We know who they are. We don't put people in awkward situations. We want to know what the home is like. So if we send a volunteer in, they're going into a safe environment. We have a whole procedure, years of ways of how we do things, but they work. And the match was amazing. Howie can attest to that. But this one senior who was 92 herself said, I love the young people. Now, younger, as one senior told me, is 15 years younger than what you are. Okay, so it's all relative. But the senior said, I would love someone my age. And well, voila. And so Howie brought these two together, and this was last summer, and they've been inseparable ever since. So this is one of hundreds and hundreds of stories, but our volunteers range in age from 14, we used to say 81, now 92. The seniors that we work with are age 60 to 107. When someone is 60, there is usually an unusual circumstance. They have cancer, they fell and they need help temporarily. They had a tragedy in their lives and they need emotional support, or they're a caregiver. Caregiving on the rise. I've been a caregiver all my life. I'm a psychologist by trade. So we work with helping people navigate all the kinds of systems, because there are a lot of blocks along the way, which could be a whole nother conversation. Okay, shop and escort. We help people get to and from important appointments. Everything you can imagine, whether it's going to find out that what the lump is, or any kind of procedure, we're there. So it's not just an arm to hold, it's an emotional support along the way, and we bring people back. And Howie makes those arrangements as far as that's concerned. So we get everybody to the bank, to the post office, to libraries, helping them. And most of our seniors do not go to to senior centers, now called older adult clubs. A name is a name. We're actually going to have a group of seniors come in and talk about this concept in itself, because it's getting we're seeing it's getting a little ridiculous, because the reality is they're seniors and what's in a name. So we will let you know what happens with that, because we've heard all kinds of terminology. But this new shift in older adults, it doesn't change the issues. And the issues are still there regardless of age. And I'm sure each of you could speak to how you felt about a terminology. Some seniors hate the term elderly. Others say that this is what I am. I'm 95 years old. That's what I am.
But they don't go to the senior centers that are.
No, in fact, less than 17% of New York City seniors go to senior centers. But yet, if you listen to many people from DFTA, they will explain how senior centers are everything. They're the hub, and they're all great for people who are capable of going. But they usually tend to be the healthier of the seniors, or a lot of our seniors don't necessarily want to listen to other people that are their same age talk about their aches and pains, and they want to be around others. We have seniors who love being around our youngsters because they share everything from music to new things. We had one senior who asked us for a pair of scissors that were strong enough to cut through material, but not enough that would be hurt her. And we didn't understand, what do you want to do? She goes, well, my young person came with torn jeans. I want to rip up a pair of jeans and go out with her. I mean, this is the sharing, and this is the beauty of that. But anyway, getting to and from these doctor's appointments, any kind of errand to enable them to go outside the home. We're not cooks, we're not cleaners, but we're there to lend an extra helping hand. Health advocacy. big issue. When a senior goes into a hospital, we make sure our health advocate, Steve, who couldn't make it tonight, is basically there that when a senior goes into a hospital, there's letting the hospital personnel know someone is watching. Why is that important? Because if you can't advocate for yourself, you are in trouble.
Yeah.
And you need extra pair of eyes and ears. Now, look, this is not any kind of negative statement against the hospital system. It is a matter of an overworked system with, not enough staff being pulled and tugged on. So if you're somewhat okay, but you're in agony pain and you're put in a corner, you could be left there for a while, even if all you need is pillow. And we had a senior who was 92. I was sharing this with Ritu about, she had pneumonia and a doctor sort of ignored it, but it was something that treated her. I mean, there's no reason not to treat her. And so a lot of times there's an attitude in the medical profession also as you get older to sort of push away from seniors that otherwise could use help. And for example, when you go into a hospital and you are being admitted because you need to be observed, they're going to ask to have you remove your things because they don't want things disappearing. And if you ever want to know, do things really disappear? We once had a senior lose her teeth, and I went over to the nurse's desk and she pulled out, and I'm not exaggerating, a huge box and said, which ones? And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's not, so things happen. But when you take your teeth out, you're not feeling well, you're in pain, you don't look your best. There is an attitude, it's not conscious always, but it's a pull away. And rather than that person was perfectly vital last week, and they can be vital again if treated. So health advocacy is something.
Health advocacy, you stay at the hospital?
No, we will, they will go visit, call, there's too many seniors that we work with, so we can't do that. But, and volunteers will go visit, and check in on them, but it's letting hospital personnel know. Also, discharge planning used to be mandatory. It is not anymore. Once you leave a hospital, they wash their hands. So if something happens and that person really shouldn't have gone home so quickly, then what do? And, we try to make sure that they have things that they need in the household, prescriptions, what do they understand the instructions? We also urge, and this is a big thing that we do, is we urge seniors, we have many discussions with them about advocating for themselves. Ask questions. There is often a white coat syndrome where a lot of people think doctor and they're like the gods. They're not. They're fallible. They make mistakes, or they're knowledgeable, but you have to ask because they're in a hurry. They're running around. You wind up talking to their assistants. So asking questions, not being afraid to get a second and a third opinion, standing up for oneself, feeling confident to do that. A lot of people are not. And that's one of the roles of staff. And also we have a cadre of well-trained volunteers to do just this, to encourage our seniors to stand up and ask the questions. When you have a medication, don't just take away, how often do I need to take it? What do I need to do? People often turn to the pharmacies for these information, but if you're going to several different doctors and there's issues with interacting medication, go with a list. Emergency planning, this is all under health advocacy.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you don't mind, Ritu, how many volunteers do you have and how many clients do you have?
Now, we cover.
How much staff do you have?
Okay. It's a small staff. We have a staff of 4 full-time, and then we have a team of volunteers. We have on a regular basis 250 volunteers who provide direct services. And then we have an additional 100 that help us out for emergencies, and another 100 who, this is approximate, I don't know, it's like 98 and 101, but it's approximately. And then 100 who are there for the holiday season, or they are fill-ins. We have a regular, somebody's visiting regularly, but they're going away for the summer months and their senior's very lonely, or a senior needs a little extra love because they're going through something, they lost a pet. So yeah, that's the nature. And then the seniors, we service about 1,000 people. This is our home. We're were born and raised in the village, but we literally started expanding a little out as the needs progressed. We go from 30th Street, river to river, downtown to the tip of
South Ferry.
South Ferry. We weren't in Community Board 1, but September 11th changed that. We got a phone call from a senior center in Chinatown that a bunch of Jewish seniors that got displaced landed in their center. There was a communication issue and they didn't know what to do with them. And could you help them? And we'll give you a street fair if you do to help raise some money for this. Of course, with street fair consolidation, we no longer do that street fair, but we wound up, once we have a senior, they're not like school programs where next year you get a new bunch. We keep them, they're with us through life, so usually, and we are there to go through those adjustments. Most want to stay in their own homes. There are special times when it is ready. Somebody is ready to make a different move because they can't be at home anymore, and we will help them through that. We don't work with someone with Alzheimer's because these are volunteers, everyday people that are just give a damn and want to do something nice and really represent the best, I think, of New York. But they're trained in terms of being alert, what to do in an emergency, that they're not alone, ask questions, be observant, what to look for. But they are not, they're lay people. They are not professionals going in. So this is not
Cynthia,
something.
do you provide an avenue for resources? Do you provide referrals to other organizations,
Right.
professionals?
Yes, we do information and referral as best we can with whatever is available. If somebody, for example, look, we don't love adult protective services because they really come in and they just sort of take over. And it depends on where a senior is, but there could be that point in time where they really need a social worker. We're not social workers. We are the best friends. That's literally, we had a group come in that did an assessment of who we were. They interviewed 100 seniors and 100 volunteers and all of our board members. And they said, what is visiting neighbors? And we are the best friends. So the things that a best friend would help out with, that's where we come in. But we are not social workers.
And how do you determine need? I mean, you have a limited capacity in terms of what.
Well, but we also have a big outreach of hands. So we reach out to, for example, we've had work with many nursing programs where we've had their professors and the nurses go out and help us with assessments. We have some trained social workers. We have a couple of social workers on our board that will help out. We try to do things in the most cost-effective way as we can. Do we need more staff? Oh yeah, we're at that capacity now. In COVID, and I do have to say this because I'm very proud of this. During COVID, we were the only group in our area that was open and active out of our offices throughout the COVID from day one. Okay, and it's very hard, and we did weirdo things. One of our funders thought we were nuts when we went to 99-cent stores. When I say our reach, our volunteers went out and picked up shower curtains, put holes, because we didn't have access to the PPE stuff, right? So we had to do, because hospitals, of course, were needed to get them. But we had one young student who now was graduated. I mean, our kids stay with us too, which is wonderful, who had access to a 3D printer and made masks for us and brought them in. So we can't imagine the crazy things we did, but we needed to get people's medicines and food and help out, and toilet paper and weird things we did to try to find places to get, like 7-Elevens to get toilet paper that was now $3 for a roll. So,
is anyone eligible? Like if I wanted, I can.
Anyone who is 16 over, able to self-direct, okay, of sound mind, they're able to self-direct, that they can, help themselves. That doesn't mean that they can't be quirky. We have quite a few of those, okay? We have quite a few. In fact, one funder said, how are you different than some other groups? Well, we can, because friendly visiting is so personal, you want somebody, you're an animal lover, you want somebody who has cats, you're allergic, you don't want, we had a situation where a volunteer fell in love with a senior, and the senior had 2 cats. She was helping out as an emergency for shopping. And she took allergy pills because she wanted to see the senior again, and it's worked out because the cats are now sitting on her lap and she seems to be fine. So, but
And what is your budget?
our budget,
Source of it.
our source, okay, our budget right now is at $350,000. Not a lot for a group that has such a tremendous reach, right? We were, before DIFTA cuts back in 2010, and he knows this very well. She was an amazing supporter. I gotta give it.
For.
Because the Department for the Aging.
Department for the
This is
Aging.
New York State.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I never forget a kindness. I never forget a kindness.
Old CB2.
Okay, we were, because our services were of direct nature, we are not case management, we're case assistants. So we help with all the little things. The little things can mean a lot, but we don't just go in, do an assessment, and then point it off to someone else. We do the actual direct services. So we were not deemed essential as case management was, which was ridiculous because it's actually the opposite. Now, meals are important, but yet we work with several groups who help out with meals to supplement some of the meals that seniors complain about through Meals on Wheels. They're not the most tasty, whatever. Look, a meal is a meal, is better than nothing. But we do work with certain people private, and then also a lot of business, like we work well with BAMRO and the Greenwich Chamber of Commerce, so that we,
What do they do for you?
well, do you remember Le Souk? You remember when Le Souk was around during the days? The restaurant at Thanksgiving, they made extra meals, about 150 extra meals that our volunteers picked up the morning of and then went and delivered. So that was really helpful to us to help and also make it a little nicer too, which gets the next project. We also do special occasions. Now, this is also, again, thought of as a nicety, but it's much more than a nicety. This is where DIFTA had no foresight at all, because they literally eliminated, we had a budget of $800,000. We had 12 staff. And for a while, we literally, we couldn't afford our rent. We were over at the cable building, and we literally lived out of a closet of a board member. I'm not kidding. It was 250 square foot space, and there was 7 of us in it, and no windows. So, but we did it, and staff went on unemployment for 9 months, but we were determined because we're like, we've been described as like the little engine that will continue to do, and we have a mighty impact. During COVID, we reached about 1,600 people. In terms of services and information.
So does all your funding come from the city, or do you do any private fundraising?
No, none of it comes from the city. Now, in one way, we don't get, we're a private organization. 1/3 of our money, I did this breakdown because we're doing our audit right now. 1/3 of our money comes from grants. Private foundations. 1/3 of it comes from contributions, and 1/3 of it, no, it's actually a little less than 1/3 of it, more like a quarter, come from city council. City discretionary funding. That discretionary funding has been a lifesaver for us. It's helped us keep our doors open, along with the fact that there's a small amount that comes from events, but our events don't make much money. They're more fundraising than fundraising. And frankly, they're a tremendous amount of energy.
And do you have any partnerships with Greenwich House, for example?
No, we don't, no.
And what?
Greenwich House is very different.
Yeah, I'm
Because
wondering.
they're more like silos that work independently, and they're changing. And I'm glad to see a new shift, but we are going directly into the homes.
I understand that. I'm just wondering if there is a synergy between an entity that has location-based help, right? And where you go to the clients. So you were saying that so many seniors don't go to senior centers. I know that Greenwich House would love to expand its membership, but I'm not articulating this very well, but it feels like there's outreach that you could be doing.
Well, we're aware of them, they're aware of us. We do things in very different ways. I'd rather not get into why. But we, you know,
So you don't see it as complimentary, you see it as more conflictual than
No, not conflictual. We've given them referrals. When we can't get it, for the few seniors who will go to a senior center, we will escort them there. If we feel that there's a program like they could benefit from, I mean, we also work with parents because we have students. So if there's a kid wanting to go to the music school, we're gonna, you know, tout their praises. We've been to their fundraisers to be supportive of them. And we've invited them to events. So there is a mutual appreciation. However, they do things very differently than we do. We are very individualized in the way we treat our people. It isn't a one size fits all. We don't do things virtually. Okay, let's start there. I cannot tell you how many programs, you know, say, oh, and this is not even in this neighborhood, go, oh, we were active throughout COVID. Yeah, you did things virtually. It's not the same. I mean, you can, virtually, you can't go to a doctor. And I mean, you can, some do telehealth, but, you know, that may be even threatened. So, you know, with that said, it's not the same as physically going to something or having a contact directly. DIFTA was to us, like, shocked us. They, you know, sitting there saying, oh, during COVID, we made phone calls. You know what they did? They picked up a phone and go, are you okay? And the senior's going to go, I'm fine, thanks. And then you hang up and, oh, they may not be fine. Are you kidding me? So we're very passionate about how we address, like, people, their family. So it's just a different way of doing things. We rather help one more person than help a whole grouping. And that's why we have managed, we said, okay, we're at our capacity now, but as a senior, we lose a senior, we gain a senior, we lose a senior, we gain a senior. And we're always going to try to find one more volunteer for another senior.
Could you expand, if money were no object, how much would you be expanding to? I mean,
we would fill in some gaps in neighborhoods that really need it. We have a small program in Forest Hills, Queens.
Oh, I see.
You know, but we would also, there's a gap with 30th to 40th that sometimes, like during COVID, we did it, but we really can't. And especially if another program is claiming that they're going to be, I say claiming, that they're servicing that area, you know, it's like, and they're getting paid for it and we're not. I mean, we're going to, but also I think there's a saying, if you try to help everybody, and then you wind up helping nobody. And if you are expert in everything, you're an expert in nothing. So we rather help those people. And that's something the board made a decision in a policy a long time ago.
How do you get your clients?
Oh my God. Visiting nurse. Any programs that have home attendants. Neighbors who tell about some senior. However, we have a policy that the senior who wants the service must make the call themselves. And we have a reason for that. We don't want to know who are you and why are you bothering me. It opens the door for us. Now, somebody can make the call with the person, but they need to make that phone call themselves to express an interest because we're not mandated to go help people. But we get it from neighbors. We get it, street fairs. We participate in other people.
You go to resource fairs?
Yes, resource fairs.
So it sounds as if though, how is your budget vis-a-vis the demand that you have now? You say you're sort of struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Would you make 350,000 as a super tight budget for the
Yes.
amount of work that you do?
Yes, it is.
So to serve the village well, 500, like how underfunded are you? I'm curious, like with being at 500, 600,000 make.
I'll put it this way. We tell the city council, you give us more, we do more. It's that simple. We get another 10 grand, that could easily be another 40 people, right? I don't know. It depends on the needs. You can't, it's not like a school kid where you say, okay, these many kids are going to be playing basketball. So you have one person on duty for that time and this many basketballs. One senior might have 10 issues. Another senior just needs to be checked in on. You know, friendly visiting doesn't cost us much. It's the time that we're there to be able to support the volunteer. But things change as people get older and as needs happen or things come up. So, one senior could, basically take up a lot of time and energy, and another person could not, because their needs are so more straightforward.
So even though, the age has gotten older, has the demand been constant or are you?
Constant.
So the demand hasn't grown so much,
Constant.
it's just
We
the age.
coming in on Monday morning.
Okay, but I'm just
The phone is
curious,
constantly ringing.
if the neighborhood is getting older, so not only are the
What's
people
very
getting older,
interesting-
but there's more demand.
Yes, very interesting. To that question, we've seen a few varying trend changes. During COVID, and I say that because it was such a specific period of time, we saw a lot of young seniors. What I would call young is 60 to 74. That's a youngster to us, all right? We see a lot, we saw a huge surge in that. A lot of fear, a lot of issues presented itself. Then I'd say in this last year, we're starting to see the trend go more towards the middle-aged senior, which is the 75 to 84. That's the middle-aged senior. These are not my definitions, by the way. These are tried and true. These have been spelled out by many different professionals through the years. And then the oldest we identify as 85 plus. We have 33 seniors this year who are making it to our centenarian club. 33. Okay, before COVID, I think we had 12. So, yeah, and what age is coming in? It's honestly all ages because it's circumstance. But we are seeing, Steve will joke about this, but we had a 99-year-old call us last month and say, I need help. And Steve said, I just have to ask, why now? And that person said to him, my doctor said I'm doing so well. I got good 5 years in me that I should maybe get some support in place just in case. Mm-hmm. So hence, so we are seeing older people coming in older. We do men versus women. 3/4 are women, 1/4 is men.
And what are your costs? Because it sounds like it's pretty fixed, like an extra $10,000 wouldn't.
That takes on another telephone line.
Another telephone. Okay, so tell us what your costs are, because I'm trying to get a sense of what's like variable and what's kind of fixed. Like an extra staff member, that's not $10,000. That's
no.
And at a certain point,
I would love to see us take on a nurse, actually have one on staff. It would be great to have another staff member to go out and do assessments. That would be a real plus. We started we always had an intergenerational program. The nature of what we do is intergenerational. Intergenerational is a gap of 20 years. So you got a 60 or an 80-year-old that's an intergenerational. But it usually means young people, 14 to 24.
I hope you guys are getting inspired.
with older adults. We had a huge intergenerational program before those funding cuts, those famous 2010. And
can I ask about
yes,
just your programs? So some of the most basic things that seniors need.
yes.
Is, number one,
Isolation.
to identify. Well, no, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Is to identify who their emergency contact is, right?
Yes.
And so, do you collect or do you encourage them to have an emergency contact and provide that information? The other thing that if they're kind of healthy enough, mentally, with it enough, they should have an inventory of their finances, their credit cards, their bank accounts, etc. They should have a advance directive. They should have a healthcare proxy. Are those things that you work on?
An assessment can take 2 to 3 hours when we're with a senior. Actually, how we go in and go grab one of those magnets from the refrigerator, for the refrigerator, so it can show. Yeah. so I can show them. We of course.
Always dressed in the same colors.
No, it was an accident. It was an accident. It was an accident. Actually, I'm usually in the tennis ball yellow sweatshirt.
I tried.
When we do an assessment, the assessment is incredibly thorough. It is the physical environment, it is their emotional state.
And,
It is
and how do
their
you
doctor's
document that? Do you have a system? Do you have a data system?
Yeah, no, we have that in we have a database, but
Okay.
that is protected. That is not to be shared, and that, we're protecting people's privacies here. We do not ask financial information, though. That's the one thing we do not help. We do not ask about, because
But what about things like a healthcare proxy?
we definitely insist that they have one. But you can only lead a horse to
No,
water.
absolutely. So then the next question
But
I
we do
have
have that,
is,
we have all those forms on hand. Again, we're not social workers, that's case management's job, but yet we do it anyway because we're in that home, we're trusted as the friend. So we will ask them for everything from, we'll have some of the most difficult conversations about what they would like to do with their stuff. I mean, because that's an issue. We've told seniors, if you have a valuable thing in your home, I know even if it's just a thing and it's beloved, a lamp, put the person you love's name underneath it and make it known so that maybe whoever's left behind might just get that to the person, But in terms of information that's very important, we want to make sure our people understand healthcare proxies. We want an emergency contact. Now, a lot of times seniors don't always have one, but even if we can get a neighbor, even if we can get a landlord, God forbid they're not heard from. When they go in, we ask that we give everybody one of these. It's a magnet. You guys are welcome to have a few. We basically ask them to put some basic information on the refrigerator. We also tell them, this is all part of emergency planning, which is another aspect of health advocacy. We have a whole list, and I'll be happy to share that with you. We have a whole list of things that people should really think about. Having a go bag for a personal emergency, as well as if there's a city emergency. Because when you think of personal emergency, you think of staying in. When you think of a city emergency, you think of going out. So you need to think about both those things. I mean, and we think in New York City, why would you? But we've all lived through Sandy and had issues with people who couldn't
and
get
9/11 and
Yes.
power outage and
Right.
yeah.
So we definitely want people to leave information on the refrigerator, have a listing of their medications available, but not just medications. What time do you take it? How often do you take it? What do you take it for? But that doesn't mean that medical professional will always look for it. But if you make a copy of it, that way when you go this is true for any of us, you go to the emergency room, when they ask you 5 times, because you've spoken to 5 people, it's just easier to make the darn copies and go here, 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 here. And because you're already exhausted and upset as it is.
So on your website,
Another question that I have is, like in our situation, in our building, for example, how would we make your services known so that people could access them?
You can, first of all, I brought a fact sheet with us, so you can grab a fact sheet, put it up in your building. Most buildings have where just as long as your super, is building and maintenance person is okay with it, put it up by the elevator or put it up by, that's what we would do here. Put it up by the elevator, put it up by your mailboxes. You certainly are welcome. If you know of anybody, you could slip it under their door. Again, they need to respond to it. Now, you can't push people. There's issues of privacy and protection and also honoring somebody's wishes.
By the way, are you governed by HIPAA or anything like that, or no?
We honor everything we can, and we certainly do.
Just out of curiosity, if you're regulated.
you don't have any requirements because you're not receiving any public money. Do you have any?
Oh no, that's not true.
Oh.
We are monitored though by city and state. We're audited. We are, we managed to follow during for COVID, we followed all the CDC rules. When it comes to protection of privacy, we're following the HIPAA rules. We're following all of that. But we are also monitored too, because as just you get discretionary funds,
I see.
you are also, responsible to the people who gave you this information. Now, do we do more than we have to? Sure, but we rather do it that way, and it secures, it's just smart.
Is there an agency that oversees you? No.
No, not an agency per se, but we are, we have DIFTA, we have SOFA. I mean, we're city and state overseen, so.
So you are overseen by DIFTA?
Yes, they're the ones who manages funds.
So you're.
They manage discretionary funds, just like DYCD manage. Anybody who gets discretionary funds has to be managed by an agency. And you select, we go through DIFTA because they're the ones that make the most sense. But
in other words, even though they're being allocated by the city council.
They still go through them.
Okay.
I wasn't understanding that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But DIFTA, there's a lot of issues with DIFTA, like their tardiness with a lot of stuff. I'm sure you've heard it. And honestly, we wrote the standards for DIFTA 20 years ago, which is funny, but then they repeat it back to us, which, we wrote it. It's very funny.
Is the board listed on your website? I don't see it. I see
don't know.
staff.
Yeah, maybe not.
I think it would be good for you to add your board to.
That's up to the board if they want to do that. They may have had their reason for that. I don't know.
It's helpful to organize, it's helpful to people who are interested from the outside, who want to
donate.
Yeah, who want to donate.
Yeah, I'll bring
Actually, your financial records too, or a connection to, the charity.
We do. I see some, I think it's on there that anyone can ask for any information from the Charities Bureau. Yeah, we're pretty public. So.
Do you ever, so the other organization that we're going to hear from either next month or in April is the New York Foundation for Senior Citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever work with them?
No, we get referrals to them and they give referrals to us.
Okay.
So yes, but they are, they're a totally different type of agency.
Oh, yeah, but that's what I meant. Like, you're not doing the same thing, obviously.
No.
But do you
They
use
refer
their
to us.
service?
They
Do you use
utilize
their
us.
services?
Yeah, if a senior, first of all, if the senior is eligible by them, they will, and it's also decided by what area they're located in, which will be their governing program for getting either home care services or the meal delivery programs, the Project CART, for example. So we will refer to Project CART as well. We'll actually refer to Project CART long before we'll ever refer to Assess the Ride.
I wanted to get a question about your costs. So I'm going to guess that your costs are primarily your staff, right? Or do you have additional costs?
Yeah, we have the printing, we have a whole list of supplies. Insurance is huge. It goes up every darn year. Training materials, outreach materials. Yeah, no, there's costs involved.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting there aren't. I just was interested.
It's not a volunteer in that way. The staff is professional staff. So yeah, but there are quite a few costs. And, we have utilities like everybody else. We have other, we have an emergency needs fund for seniors who have come up and they don't have a fan, and they need a fan.
Needed a mattress.
Yeah, a mattress, right. So there's volunteer pieces to this too. There's going to be all kinds of materials for the volunteers that get involved. And, but yeah, some of it we can get pro bono, but most not. Today it's getting harder and harder.
And has the city council funding been pretty consistent?
No.
Because I'm wondering what we can do as a board, and I don't know what what we're allowed to do, but that's the kind of.
I've seen we started out with a certain amount and it's actually been a little less, but a large part of that is the Manhattan Borough President. The Manhattan Borough President seems to fund us every other year, whereas Gail Brewer funded us every year. So that makes a difference.
So the new DIFTA RFP didn't help you qualify for.
No.
We've advocated for you before in our district meetings.
I know you have.
Because you came to when I was whatever.
When you started, yes, I know.
So, and of course, we've got.
Once dedicated, always dedicated. That's the
We get
truth.
answer we usually get, and I can't support this, so.
So our local city council people, because we have.
They're the ones who
Marte,
really are our heroes.
Rivera, they come through.
And they listen. Marte listens. I have to tell you, our city council, I'm very impressed with, both the former and current. It's a younger, city council. They're learning, but boy, have they started to ask very smart questions. So we're very happy and excited. We participate in their council hearings. There's one coming up on the 10th. We'll be there as well. And they want to understand, like, for example, if you sat there, this is off the record, but if you sat there listening.
Nothing is off the record. We're a public.
Oh, this is a public meeting, so I'm not going to say what I was about to say.
Too late.
Well, it's honestly on public record by virtue of them, but no, the truth is, senior centers aren't everything for everybody. Yes, as I started saying, yes, they're wonderful for the people who can go to them. But if you can't get there, or you don't want to get there, or you're, uncomfortable getting there, or you're embarrassed because you don't have the clothes, or you don't have the hygiene, or you don't feel up for it, it's a lot. As it is, so the other important program, another cost for us, are special occasions. It's very important to recognize people during important events in their lives, for obvious reasons. I'm going to share this with you because this is where I was telling you about a DIF that didn't have the sensitivity or the oversight. We weren't the only ones funding cut. It was 27 programs. Okay, so it was across the board in terms of any friendly visiting or intergenerational services. And we were the most cost effective and productive too, which is but crazy. But they were looking for $1 million cut, which whatever that did for them, who knows. So we survived it. The nature of what we're doing is very intimate. So with that said, we also want to acknowledge people and let them know that they matter. I should have started when we asked what our services are, what niche Visiting Neighbors fills, is that our mission is to try to keep people who are trying to stay independent for as long as possible in their own homes, who are not in a position to be able to get out freely because they're worried about crossing the street. They're worried about crime. They're worried about getting knocked over. They're worried about, just a fast world, a curb cut, a hole in the sidewalk, whatever, getting to and from. And they're but they want to stay home, and they want to stay in their beloved community, and they love their community. And they want to feel like they still have something left to offer. So our mission is to keep people as independent, as active, as connected as possible, and as healthy as possible. So we do a lot of information about what's good nutrition and why it's important to follow your diabetic diet. Not to say you don't occasionally cheat, but because we do, we have to live life. But we also at the same time knowing your limits and talking to your doctor and having these honest conversations. So that is our mission. And we're also here to promote a better attitude towards aging in general. Every year we hold it only in Chelsea because of the size and noise variance issues. There is a street fair, it's not ours, but we participate in it, where we have our Sexy Senior Talent Show, our annual talent show. Every last Saturday of April, guys, you're all welcome to join us between 2 and 4. And some of our healthier of the crew get up and strut their stuff for the New York City audience and basically have a great time. And what's amazing is New Yorkers are wonderful. We thought the first time we ever did this that, we weren't sure if anyone's going to throw tomatoes or boo them or what. But no. They were, first of all, they were far more talented than I even gave them credit for. Talent is ageless. It really is. So is spirit. Your body may not be 100%, but your spirit may be. And we had a senior, a gentleman who walked with 2 canes. And he had a hard time getting onto the stage. It took 2 volunteers to get him up on stage. Once he got the microphone in his hands, He started belting out an operatic song and he was 91, still had enough volume that the audience was blown away. By the 3 minutes, we tell them 3 to 5 minutes, we have to move it along. Again, we have rules. We've done this a long time too. After 3 minutes into his performance, he's coming towards the close. We noticed that where's his canes? And they were hung up on the microphone stand. And there he is walking around with the microphone. It was amazing to see this. So we do this as a part of our mission to promote a better attitude towards aging in general. Because if you're willing, and maybe you're not in a position to get up and out, but there are still things that you can do to be connected to your community. And now with the internet, it's really opened the world. Now, some seniors are still a little nervous, but some of our young people help the seniors with the computers. Our special occasions program, at Christmas, we do what we call elfing. Elfing is where we get stuff donated, and some years are more generous than others. And this is where our board, and this is where we also may supplement as we have to, so that the bags look a little more full. But we have a volunteer go and visit with a senior during the holiday, and we mix it up so the volunteer who's got their friendly visitors, they're gonna have their friendly visitor anyway. But this way, the people who do get shop and escort everyone's gonna get a visit. And when we started this program many years ago, there was a higher accident rate at the holiday time than any other time of the year. And a ratio of 8 to 1. It's huge. Seniors landing in the hospital, emergency rooms. And when you looked at what was going on, it's not my idea of a happening place, but when you're older and alone, having people around, as one nurse said, well, we have a Christmas tree, that there's people there. So this is not what we want for our clients. We want them to be able to feel like they matter and they're not alone. So another part of our mission is just that. Anyway, within 1 year of doing this simple little thing of having a volunteer take a little extra time and go and visit, and our volunteers really get into it. Some of them put on the elf hat. They literally go find them. Others bring a mug of coffee. Some will say, can I bring hot cocoa? Some will bring their kids. I mean, it's a wonderful way of volunteering in a limited way. So you can do it as a one-shot deal and not feel like you have to do it ongoing.
You were about to say that in 1 year.
In 1 year of doing this, the accident leveled off to the same as any other time of the year. Amazing. So it is where, when you have someone remembering your birthday, remembering you, knowing that you're not alone. We have local school children. We just had Valentine's cards done. I should have brought some in to show you. We made copies of them, some of our favorites. Somebody drew a pickle and said, "You're a great pickle." And they're really cute.
So cute.
They're so cute. They really are cute. We do have to sort through a few of them because some of them are like, if you die, will you take this card to heaven with you? We do have a few seniors who would love that because they have very sarcastic senses of humor. Okay, so anyway, we stamps, we do a lot of postage. You want to know, we do tremendous amount of postage, and postage is not free. It's not free. And so we would even a few $1,000s would pay for postage, some extra postage, another newsletter, another mailing, another cheer up mailing. But yeah, see, these little niceties are very important, as well as getting to the doctor, as well as having someone check on you. But that's our niche of trying to help people that are trying to help themselves, promote a better attitude towards aging in general, and also be there. And the best ways that you can support us are definitely let the council people know that your seniors in your community matter. And as I said to Rita, if we're all lucky, we'll become a healthy senior at home with friends around us. And as one senior told me, you don't need many, you need a few good ones. And it's true.
Howard, were you going to say something?
I was just going to add, with the Valentine's Day, I have a group of, this group from a high school. They come in now They buy the roses themselves
Yeah.
and they go to the seniors' homes, deliver the roses with a card.
Ritu, do you have any other questions?
I have a.
Does that?
Yeah,
Please go ahead and ask questions.
Your volunteer, you said you have 250 volunteers.
Regular
Volunteers, and is that number been consistent over, let's say, the last?
Pretty much. Actually, it was interesting. During COVID, we had an increase of volunteers. Some people wanted to do telephone. We did a lot of telephone reassurance, of course. But we did have, we got actually 2 new board members that way, people who wanted to do something.
Is that stable number because an equal number of people leave as come
Yes,
on? Or is it
yes.
people just stay on for a really?
Both,
I see.
both,
Okay,
both.
combination.
We have volunteers who've been with us for 20, 30 years.
Okay.
And we have people who grew up with us. We have a young man who we honored actually a few years back. He started as a very shy high school kid who is physically severely disabled, but he is capable of walking around and he has a heart of gold. He tried to volunteer with other programs and nobody wanted him, as he puts it. Those are his words, not mine. And he came to us, and our seniors see right through a good heart. They really do, you know. And so they love him. He would help with shop and escort and friendly visiting. And now he's
53. He came
53.
on, he was 18 or 19 years old.
And we awarded him during the pandemic because he did something like not exactly 250 hours of service. You know, tremendous. I mean, some really amazing New Yorkers. And many amazing villagers too, I gotta say.
Arturo, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I think this whole time I really loved just learning about some of the trends and patterns that you've seen, and kind of the impact that, you know, your organization has been able to have on people's lives.
Yeah.
Do you have that in a report somewhere? Like, I'm a very data-driven guy, and so I love seeing kind of like these patterns, whether it's like geographic or just the statistics on how some of these things have changed over the years, or, you know, where like a lot of the impact you have.
We have a whole history file that we update every year. Did we compile that? We could if we had somebody come in and do it.
Do I hear a new volunteer?
But we certainly, in fact, there's a lot of information we've gathered. Like one of the things we gathered in, again, same kind of thing, we have collected it, but it is not formally anywhere. We'd love to know what to do with it, actually. And something it's like when you're dealing with putting out the fires of people's, lives, these are the niceties and extras that you say, well, it's nice, can we use it in somehow? But again, that's where more staff would really come in play. But I wanted to just share.
Working with NYU, you get a grad.
They come and they go, and then they train them, and then it takes a lot of energy
But
to do
data
it.
collection is not asked of you by DIPTA.
Not that, they don't ask for trends.
They don't ask for
They're-
stats.
No.
Do they ask for demographic information?
They'll ask for some demographic, but honestly, you want to know who asks for the demographic information? It's one of the council people. They have gotten more on the pulse there. They're amazing. I tell you,
Can you produce a report for the city?
oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Oh.
twice a year.
Oh, would you be able to share one of those with us?
I'll ask them if they would be okay with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I'd
that
love,
would
that'd be very
helpful to us. I
informative,
think
yeah.
that gets to what Arturo's asking.
We'll be doing the next one is due, I believe, in April. So once that's completed, that will be the most current. I can
That would be great.
certainly share that,
Or you can share the last one with us. We're gonna do a report on this meeting, and the last one that you did is fine, actually, just helpful.
Okay.
I would love to get the meeting going on to the next agenda. We have another agenda item, but are there other questions in the room? You're allowed to ask questions. No?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to laugh, so thank you so much.
Yes,
You're
it's
welcome.
great.
I wanted to say one last thing we've been doing, where we have been collecting wisdom from seniors. And we put them in newsletters. We've shared them with others. We've shared them with reports. But, they're fabulous. We would love to, when I thought we had did we do it, turn it into a coffee table book? To think about any suggestions and thoughts for us, because they're pearls, Again, it's a nice day. It's something we wanted to do. But what happened is that a lot of our seniors were sharing wisdom with our younger people who were relating it back. And that's when we got the idea, let's collect it. Again, in a big folder. So,
I have one last thing to say.
Yes.
Being the recruiting monster that I am, if anybody would like to volunteer, the application is at our website. 2 reference forms are needed to be filled out by anyone except a relative, telling you what wonderful people you all are. And
Minimum number of hours that you ask from your volunteers now.
all you need is an hour or 2 free a week.
2.
You can
At
do
least
it
2.
for students after school, weekends, people who work.
Right.
Can do it after work, on a weekend. And that's usually good for friendly visitors because they want to visit on the weekend or after work. So
You could come to a community board meeting, we have a public session and where people make announcements at the beginning of the meeting. So I don't know if you do that, but it'd be great if you would stop by a full board meeting and make an announcement.
I hear the meetings going on all the time. I'm going to come when I hear a meeting now,
Okay.
I leave 6:30 and the
Okay.
meetings I'm coming by.
You should know our full board meetings are large. We have a board of 50
Much larger.
people and
Okay.
they're not held
And they're
here.
downtown.
Mark always knows.
Oh,
where
it's
they're held.
NYU Gold.
Well,
It's
it
right
depends
here.
on the month. It depends
I
on the
thought we're
month,
always
but
in-
Mark always knows where they are.
Except with Mark.
There's a public session that kicks off the
Right.
meeting where people make public announcements of all kinds, and I think that would be a good.
We need people to
Fantastic.
be responsible and reliable, though.
Yeah.
It's not like,
You'll have your.
Well, it's a pretty reliable-
You'll have your vetting.
no, but you know what I mean? When somebody says a couple out, we don't mean like show up once and then like don't show up again. Nobody, yes, because that's the cruelest thing you can do to somebody is like
Or friendly visiting, yeah.
disappoint. And that's the last thing we
Are you
want
listed
to
with
do.
any of the mayor's services, that website?
I don't know, we should be.
Yeah, you should be.
But we
I just
don't-
been
we
looking
don't-
for
we-
a volunteer job and that's.
You talk about
Well, we're
NYC
not-
service?
Yeah,
Connected. We're connected with that.
yeah, we are. But to be honest with you, we've had issues. We've seen issues with the mayor that we're really not comfortable, with aligning. So we have pulled away a lot. Yeah, that's, yeah.
All right, terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, having us.
Okay.
Thanks for setting that
Thank you, Cynthia.
up. So we're gonna go on to our next topic. Yes. So I have
Thank you.
And just some
I'll
basic.
pass you around.
I didn't know how many, I just put it.
If you need extra, I'm down the hall. I can bring some more.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Emma?
Yeah.
If you have any other questions, you're welcome to ask me. Best times to reach me, to be honest, is between 12 and 3. That's my best time, because in the morning it's crazy, the afternoon it's crazy.
So I'll throw that again.
But you're welcome to call me.
National Monument.
It's working now.
Oh, well, we can pull it out.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, thank you. Thank you. Good night.
The first name, the nation.
First National. All right, so,
What's
the second, item, we'll see if anyone from the public would like to speak on this. We do have some attendees. All right, here's the background on this. The second item is about the Stonewall National Monument. The Stonewall National Monument was designated in 2016. The proposal for that came through, was presented to the Parks Committee of CB2 back then. The Parks Committee wrote the resolution that ended up supporting it. This issue is related to Stonewall. We would have brought it to the Parks Committee, but their next meeting is a very big one. And so we decided to bring it into Human Services. It all ends up with the full board anyway. The issue is that on the website of the National Park Service's website that describes the Stonewall Monument no longer describes it as celebrating the rights of the LGBT or LGBTQ or LGBTQ blah, blah, blah population, but just the LGB population. So they've removed at a minimum the letter T from the acronym.
Q, U, E.
They cannot do that. That is not legal.
Well, I don't know what's legal or not, but.
First, I have a question.
Yes.
I think it's interesting. This just pops in.
Yes.
Why are we only concerned about the T and not the Q and the E and the I?
Well, I think that on the original NPS website, it was LGBT.
Okay,
And also, I think that when it comes to the name nomenclature, there are so many different acronyms, LGBT, LGBTQ, LGBTQIA+, that I feel like you could go really get lost in the sauce in all of this. But I think we can at least refer to what was on the website. That is no.
okay, and that was all that was on the website.
Yes, in fact, there are parts of the website where it's still there.
Okay, thank
Which
you.
is, they haven't scrubbed it all.
Okay,
So I was annoyed by this. I felt that since CB2 had taken a position in support of this, we should have we should have a position.
Yeah.
And my position is pretty clear. I don't know how anyone else feels. I will read a statement from Chanel Spence, who is a member of our community board, and I would invite any one of the attendees who'd like to weigh in to raise their hands if this is something you'd like to do. There's 5 people there. I will read from Chanel Spence. Statement in support. So I'm proposing that we have a resolution that opposes the NPS's decision to remove the letter T. Chanel Spence says if he were here, he would say Stonewall is a place where LGBTQ people come to give honor and to celebrate. It's the birthplace and a shrine of the modern LGBTQ movement. Erasing TQ has as its purpose to encourage homophobia and hate with the usual they are bad and immoral people implications. Happily, it does nothing to erase trans and queer people. CB2 is privileged to be itself a gay mecca and home of the Stonewall Monument. We have a responsibility to be its stewards and defenders and ensure that trans and queer people are restored with full recognition. That's
Amen.
the statement.
so that would advocate to add the T and the Q and not only the T.
Well, I think that what we need to do is look at what was on the website.
See, the problem is that it was originally LGBT. And even though right now it should be Q, but we at least historically should have what we historically approved.
There before.
Yeah.
And that was just a month ago, it was just LGBT.
They just took off the T.
Yeah, in
Okay.
January, they
Okay.
took it off.
So they're not allowed to. That's why I'm telling you, it's not legal.
I have no idea what's legal or not. I just know that I thought it should be on our record that we, if we agree that we oppose that we say
And,
that.
and can we add to this resolution after this?
This is just a draft of
Oh,
a
okay.
resolution.
Because I would think we should
As a
end with
symbol for
an
discussion.
affirmation saying we object to it being removed and therefore be resolved that we want it restored.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think that's great.
The other thing I would say is that I just wanted to explain my approach to this. There are many different advocacy organizations and that have spoken out about this. I thought as the community board, it was of interest to me to talk about the slight to the narrative history of the United States. That is my feeling about this. That obviously people are hurt and offended and feel excluded, and it's all there. But I also wanted to stress that the whole point of a monument is to tell the historical narrative. And in changing this, we're trying to skew the historical narrative, which is a disservice to everybody, not just to people in that community. It's a disservice to me. So that was my bent. But this is just a springboard for discussion. Welcome to hear your thoughts about it.
Yeah, I second what Janet just said. And then I think the other, just it's already brought up the first national monument, just because that is the technical term. And then maybe even splitting 3 into 2, just because it's a little bit dense. So right where it says of which objectives is offense, maybe like a separate clause, like the aforementioned, which the aforementioned objectives, which it finds offensive or something, but I mean, not a big deal, but
All right, you can share that language with
Yeah,
me and we'll see
okay.
how that goes.
sounds good. I can do that.
And then I might, if we're talking about just how this is written, that these would seem to me are more whereases, whereas we're proud, whereas with this, whereas with that. Therefore, be resolved that they want the tea restored, and to make it a more concise resolution.
So you're saying that all of these three wherefores, therefores be whereases?
Yeah, because whereas is the first national monument, and whereas, the Park Service is erasing history, and whereas we interpret the language as blah, blah, blah. Therefore be resolved that we want the tea restored.
All right, let me take a look at that.
I can see that. I do like the
Yeah,
I like the expression is proud,
Yeah.
strongly objects,
Yeah.
we're taking the position.
yeah, I do like the position that we are proud of this. We strongly object. Could go either way, kind of defer to you all.
Or you could put the one and that, put that in,
Yeah. I'll take a look
short,
at that.
short and the resolved. And maybe add some stronger language to the.
Sounds good.
But what about saying you cannot do this? I mean,
I have no idea if you can do this or not. I have no legal authority to know whether you can.
but it seems to me that if a community, I mean, I think this is trying to take away our power, which is another big problem right here. But we have, historically done this. And, you cannot, we strongly object to any move that takes away the power and the resolve of the community board.
Well,
Something like that.
Although in fairness, I mean, we didn't play a big role in creating this monument. I mean, they were gonna do it with or without us. I mean, we're just in the
Yeah, this is a
advisor capacity
national
and we can advise the
monument.
city. We don't advise the National Park Service, although I think we'll send this
But,
little resolution that no one will read will go to the National Park Service. But
we endorsed it.
yeah, no, we endorsed.
I mean, we didn't create it, but once the community board takes a stand, we should be respected as a group. I mean, and that's what really bothers me. You cannot undercut what communities have done. And we are legally, we are a politically something.
We're
Just like she remembered, we advocated for visiting neighbors a long time ago when they cut their funding. We said, you can't do this. And then apparently, I forgot, but apparently we got it back. Or we.
Because we're only advisory, so we really don't have any real power. We can only advise.
Well, and no, advising is powered.
Well, it's soft power.
Yes, but it can be very powerful. I mean,
But we don't have any.
we
authority.
as a
We
community
have
board,
power, but we don't have authority.
that's correct. We do a lot, legislate, but we have power and don't you dare take it away.
But we can object to it, yes, for sure.
That's what I mean.
I'm just saying, we can't say that they're not allowed to do it. We have no idea if they're allowed to do this or not. I'm not a lawyer. We don't.
They're not allowed to
It's not-
take away things that the community board has. That's not how it works.
Well, it is, well, okay.
That's what I think.
Okay.
I mean,
It does work like that all the time.
I mean, I guess you could consult with the center that apparently is doing a lawsuit to
I'm
find
not
out.
getting
Okay.
involved with that.
Okay.
I don't need to get
Okay.
involved with that. You know what I mean? Like, my feeling is, we're just one voice. There's a million voices, right? I just thought, and they're gonna have a lawsuit. We're not gonna have a lawsuit. That's not gonna happen. It's not our place to do that. We're just feel like we are communication between the community and the city. In this case, we will send it to the National Park Service. They will throw it right over their shoulders, but at least we can say, we took a stand.
Right, and it's
Oh,
very
yes,
important.
Yahoo!
Oh, there we go.
Oh, we have a customer. Hold on.
Do you want to help me write
We
this
have a
language?
customer and a
They
customer
basically
is,
moved that down
Oh, I
here,
can do it, I
regulates
can
the
do
use of right
it's
strongly
Darlene
object,
Lutz.
and demands that they reinstate the tea in all places
Darlene
where it
Lutz,
used
so
to be.
promote you to panelist. Oh, wait, why the heck? Allow you to talk, allow you to talk. Okay, Darlene?
She's rejoining as panelist.
Oh, shit, I didn't.
Because
delete- that
I
wasn't
thought it
what
was
I
the
meant to do, but
one
there you are.
that we wanted to move down here. I mean,
Oh, no, because I thought you want to end with like the,
I want to definitely end with, therefore we demand that they reinstate the tea.
okay.
Yes,
Because to me, like, all these make sense.
we can hear you, Darlene.
Hello, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm fresh out of the first precinct meeting. So good evening to Community Board 2 and committee members and committee chair. Thank you for allowing me to comment on this issue. For the record, my name is Darlene Lutz. I have been a resident, a student, ran my business, Fine Art Consulting, in CB2 since 1977. The year I'm getting feedback from the room.
I don't know why we're not hearing feedback.
Okay.
It's not us.
Not feedback, but chatter.
Okay.
Go ahead, Darlene.
Okay. Since 1977, the year I moved to New York City. I moved here as a young woman. I am by education and trade an art historian. I've had the advantage of having half of my career and half of my life in analog and half now in digital. It's the analog that lends me to have an informed opinion. My area of art expertise, by the way, is 20th century European modern master, post-impressionism through surrealism. I like my artists dead for a simple reason. A work of art speaks for itself. The artist doesn't need to. I bring all my adult life experience here to this conversation tonight. I knew Jean-Michel Basquiat, Keith Haring, very well, two men who died too soon. But the deification of both still confound me. Not really. They're brands now that generate millions of dollars. Stonewall, too, is a brand. If you haven't been following Stonewall's actions across at least in the English-speaking world and across the pond, you may not be aware of what this brand is selling. For those of us who lived here through the late 70s, 80s, 90s, we have memory and the ability to put the history in context. Revisionist history doesn't serve anyone, least of all a generation of humans who never have or will experience a world without the relentless imagery and messaging chaos. My perspective is this: contextualizing 21st century ideas and ideology, and more so the last 10 years of this century, into any other period of history is corrupting it. This is what I see what has happened with Stonewall. And
Darlene,
LGBT.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna interrupt you because I'm having a hard time understanding what your point is, and I just want to.
Because I'm trying to put this in context. And this community has not had a conversation about what the T. What is the T? What does it mean? What rights are being fought for? Because gay men and gay women cross the threshold, the final frontier of full civil rights in New York and in the rest of the country in 2013. Same-sex marriage was that final frontier, and it was won. Nothing has changed. So in 1969, Stonewall and the uprising, as it were, which has been very corrupted in its revisionist history, has now brought us to this point. And for some of us who have lived through all of those decades and seen where it is now and what it is doing to the rights of women and girls is more than disturbing. We cannot protect, if you'll just give me, I'm just going to conclude.
Yeah, I need you to wrap it up. Thank you.
We cannot protect both sex and gender identity in law as they are directly contradictory to one another. So before we get on this, let's reinstall a T. Let's talk about what LGB is and the rights and what that stands for, because it stands for exactly the rights that were fought, for all those decades.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, she's not for the tea.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment in the room? On the TV? Yeah, go ahead. So say, tell us your name and come forth because people on the Zoom will want to hear you.
It's okay, we're nice.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Maya Glass. I'm a college student and my brother is actually trans. And so I see this like firsthand. It's very damaging to the trans community for this letter to be removed. It erases their history, it erases their identity. And it's really psychologically damaging too. I've seen what like transition has looked like for my brother. It was really difficult, even as supportive as my family has been. It's really hard, and to erase like all of these people and who they are and their identity. I mean, it's just like, it's disgusting. It's horrible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Okay, guys, is there anything else we need to say?
No, just thanks to you for drafting this, for bringing it to the committee. It's really important here. And
Yeah.
appreciate your leadership.
So we generally agree with the tenor.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We'll work on the language. I'll share it with you. We'll figure out whether it goes to executive or full board, and thus we will have taken a position and no one will read it, but we'll have said it. All right, guys, thank you very much. We're gonna say goodnight.
Thank you.
7:57.
Oh, great.
Thank you, Savannah.
So.
Let me just end this for everybody.
Officially.